You've already learned the emergency skill of how to fly straight and level, climb, turn, and descend when you cannot see the outside horizon. You know, the usual kind of maneuvers. But as you probably found out when you first started flying by reference to instruments, it can be a little difficult to keep the airplane in one of the usual attitudes all of the time. Maybe your chart falls off your lap, and when you lean over to pick it up, the airplane seems to develop a mind of its own. And the next thing you know, the airplane is in some unexpected, unusual attitude. So it would be very handy to have another tool in your flight bag, one that allows you to recognize and recover from an unusual flight attitude when you cannot see the horizon. Now, your instructor may have done these maneuvers with you already without your wearing a hood or foggles. That's a good way for you to see what kind of attitude you actually end up in. It's not near as dramatic as you might think when it happens under the hood, and to get comfortable with the recovery procedures. But now it's time to do some unusual attitudes wearing the foggles, and I'll give you some tips that will help make them easy. We'll begin at an altitude of 3,000 feet AGL, so there's plenty of room to recover. And I'll clear the area with a 90-degree turn to the left and a 90-degree turn back to the right. Now, Cal, who's acting as my instructor, will put me in an unusual attitude. And when he tells me to recover, I'll try to figure out what attitude I'm in and then recover to level flight. Cal, would you take the controls?
I have the controls.
Now that I have my foggles on, I'll close my eyes and look down in my lap until Cal tells me it's my airplane.
Your airplane.
I look immediately at the attitude indicator. It says I'm nose high in a right turn, and the airspeed and altimeter confirm that. So I'll come in with full power and lower the nose to the level flight attitude position on the attitude indicator, and then roll the wings level using the attitude indicator with coordinated aileron and rudder. And once I'm back to level flight attitude, I'll reduce the power back to cruise power. So to recover from the unusual attitude, the first thing I did was look at the attitude indicator to get the big picture, in this case nose high and in a right bank. But then I confirmed that nose high attitude by looking at the airspeed indicator and the altimeter. The airspeed was below cruise, well below cruise and decreasing, and the altimeter was showing a pretty hefty rate of climb. So that confirmed the nose high attitude. And to recover from a nose-high attitude, you simultaneously add power and reduce the angle of attack by pitching the nose down. And then you roll the wings level. There's another way that sub-flight instructors and some examiners like to do unusual attitudes, and that's to have you, the student, put yourself in one. It's more realistic than if the instructor does it to you, and it really gives you a feeling for how it can happen in the clouds. Cal's going to tell me what maneuvers to fly, and I'll try to do what he says without looking at the flight instruments. Okay, Cal, I'm ready.
Okay, Martha, let's go ahead and start a shallow, straight-ahead descent. Level off here. Now do a 30-degree left bank. Roll level. And hold this heading. Okay, go ahead and recover from this.
I look first at the attitude indicator. It says I'm nose low in a left bank, and the airspeed and altimeter confirm that. So I'll reduce the power. I don't want my speed to pick up anymore, and roll the wings level. I want the wings level with all the lift pointing up and the load factor off the plane before I bring the nose up. And then I raise the nose to level flight attitude. And once I'm in level flight attitude, I'll bring the power back to cruise power. So again, the first thing I looked at was the attitude indicator to get the overall picture. And if you're in a nose low unusual attitude, you want to reduce power to keep the speed from building up anymore, reduce the load factor by rolling the wings level, and then raise the nose to level flight attitude. Cal, would you hold the controls, please?
I have the controls.
I have the controls. And that's really all there is to unusual attitudes. First, recognize what unusual attitude you're in by interpreting your flight instruments, starting with the attitude indicator for the overall picture. Then correct to straight and level flight. And here's a tip. Think of the power as being tied to the airspeed indicator. If the airspeed is below cruise and decreasing, add power. If it's above cruise and increasing, then decrease the power. But remember that the real trick to being a good pilot is to stay out of situations where you might need to use this emergency capability.